Pascal Siakam didn't just play well in the Eastern Conference Finals. He dominated. Game after game, possession after possession, he looked completely unstoppable. The defense knew what was coming and still couldn't do anything to stop it. He turned every mismatch into a highlight, every quiet moment into a storm. And when the lights got brightest, he rose to a level that not even his biggest supporters could have predicted. There's a reason they're calling him the 2025 ECF MVP. But let's talk about why this run might go down as one of the most overlooked playoff masterclasses in recent NBA history. Coming into the 2025 playoffs, the focus in the East was almost entirely on the usual suspects: Giannis, Tatum, Embiid, maybe even a little bit of hype around Paolo. But Pascal Siakam, for most fans, he was just another solid veteran, a second or third option on a good but not great Pacers team. That narrative didn't last long. By the time Game 1 tipped off, it was clear Siakam was on something different. Not just more aggressive, but calculated. His footwork was sharper, his reads were faster, and he played like someone who'd been waiting years for this exact moment. And from the opening quarter of that first game, he went straight to work attacking the rim, punishing switches, hitting tough mid-range jumpers with absurd confidence. You couldn't watch 5 minutes of action without seeing Pascal turn a broken possession into an easy two, or create a look for someone else out of thin air. But what really separated him wasn't just the scoring, it was the control. The Pacers didn't just let him run free. They built the entire offensive engine around him. Every set, every action, it all revolved around Siakam. Whether it was a high pick and roll or a delay set at the top of the key, the ball kept finding its way back to him. And what he did with those touches, clinical in transition, he was a nightmare. He'd grab a rebound, push the break himself, and finish through contact before the defense could even set. In the half court, he'd slow it down, back his man down, and make the right playtime after time. It wasn't loud or flashy like a 50-point explosion. It was more like surgical dominance. Every game felt like a slow, inevitable takeover, and just like that, the Pacers were up 2-0 in the series. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Celtics were deeper, more experienced, and more talented on paper, but they had no answer for Siakam's versatility. Switch a smaller guard onto him, barbecue chicken, try a bigger wing. He'd blow by them on the first step. Send a double. He'd hit the open shooter in the corner without hesitation. But here's the crazy part. None of this felt forced. It all came within the flow of the game. Siakam wasn't stat padding or trying to play hero ball. He just kept making the right play over and over, and his teammates fed off that energy. The Pacers started playing with confidence, swagger even, and suddenly the series didn't feel like an upset anymore. It felt like a shift in power. By Game 3, everyone watching knew the Celtics were in serious trouble. And Siakam? He just kept cooking. Game 3 was where the shift turned into a statement. On the road, hostile crowd, Boston throwing everything they had at him, and it didn't matter, Siakam played like he had ice in his veins. The Celtics tried throwing different looks, more aggressive, traps, and even sent Tatum to guard him for extended stretches. Still, nothing stuck. Siakam just kept picking them apart like he was reading from a script he'd already memorized. What stood out most wasn't just the point, it was the timing of them. Every time the Celtics went on a run and looked like they might flip the momentum, Pascal shut it down with a tough bucket or a smart find. When Boston cut the lead to 4 late in the third, Siakam came right back down, isolated, and drilled a spinning fadeaway in the lane. When the Pacers' offense stalled for a few minutes in the fourth, he slowed the tempo, backed his man down, and got to the line. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't forcing. He was managing the game like a seasoned quarterback, controlling the pace, keeping everyone steady, and knowing exactly when to strike. That game ended with Siakam finishing just shy of a triple-double. But if you watched it, you know the box score didn't do him justice. It was the way he made the entire team look better. The floor spacing looked cleaner. The movement was crisper. The decisions were faster. And all of it stemmed from Siakam's presence on the floor. He wasn't just the best player, he was the pulse of the team by Game 4. The Celtics looked shaken. You could see it in their body language. Guys hesitating on open shots, the ball sticking more, defensive rotations half a second too late. Meanwhile, Siakam kept operating with surgical efficiency. Same moves, same patience, same results. He was drawing doubles on the catch and still slicing through the pressure like it was nothing. Even more impressive, the way he handled adversity. Late. In Game 4, he took a hard fall in the second quarter. It looked bad. He limped to the locker room and the arena fell silent. But sure enough, a few minutes into the third, he was back taped up, focused, and instantly back in rhythm. On his first possession, he backed down Holiday and spun baseline for an easy layup. No hesitation. No drop in confidence. It was like nothing had changed and mentally he was locked in. No jawing at the refs. No reacting to hard fouls. He just kept his head down and worked. That kind of composure under pressure is rare even for elite players. And that's when the conversation started to change. This wasn't just a hot streak. This was looking like something way bigger. By the end of Game 4, the Pacers had taken a commanding 3-1 lead. Siakam had averaged over 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in the series so far, all while shooting efficiently and playing tough physical defense. And yet, it still felt like the wider NBA world hadn't caught up to what was happening. The spotlight was late, but the impact, undeniable. Because while everyone kept asking how the Celtics were collapsing, the real story was right in front. Of them, Pascal Siakam was dismantling one of the best teams in the league, piece by piece, and he wasn't done yet. Game 5 wasn't just a game, it was a moment. With the Pacers now one win away from the finals, the pressure was at an all-time high. Everyone expected Boston to come out swinging, to play desperate, to throw the kitchen sink at Indiana and force a Game 6. And they did. From the opening tip, the Celtics played with a level of urgency we hadn't seen all series. Their defense was tighter, their rotations sharper. Their stars finally looked locked in. But even with all of that, Siakam was still the best player on the floor, and you could feel it. From the first possession, it was clear he wasn't going to let this opportunity slip away. He attacked Al Horford off the dribble, buried a mid-range pull-up in Tatum's face, then found a cutting Mathurin with a no-look dime off a spin move. The Pacers jumped out to an early lead, and Siakam was at the center of everything again. But of course, the Celtics weren't going down without a fight. They came storming back in the second quarter, and by halftime, it was a one-possession game. That's when the pressure really started to build, the kind of pressure that breaks role players, that silences crowds. That flipped series, and in that moment, Pascal didn't blink. He came out of the half with a different energy. You could see it in his eyes. Every touch felt intentional. Every move had a purpose. He started punishing Boston's defenders on every switch. Smart, White, even Brown, none of them could slow him down. He'd get to his spot, rise up, and knock it down like it was a drill. He wasn't just scoring, he was dictating the rhythm of the game midway through the fourth. The Celtics tied it up. The crowd was on fire. Boston had all the momentum. And then Siakam ripped it all away. He came down, calmly called for the screen, rejected it, drove baseline, and finished through contact. Next possession, step back 3. Bang, then a steal, then an assist. In a span of 2 minutes, he shut the door on Boston's comeback and slammed it with authority. That stretch didn't just win the game, it defined the series. When the buzzer sounded, Siakam walked off the court with 34 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. But more importantly, he walked off having led the Pacers to their first NBA Finals appearance in over 2 decades, and the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. There was no debate, no arguments, no what-ifs. Pascal Siakam had earned it every minute, every bucket, every possession. He didn't win it with one huge scoring night or a flurry of highlight plays. He won it with consistency, leadership, and complete command over 5 straight games against one of the league's most battle-tested rosters. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. But it was legendary. And maybe that's the perfect way to describe Siakam's run-in all-time performance. That didn't ask for your attention. It demanded your respect. Because when the lights were brightest, when the margin for error disappeared, and when his team needed him the most, Pascal Siakam didn't just show up. He took over, and now he's heading to the NBA Finals.